Good Voch Rabboisai. It's so amazing to be here in Johannesburg, South Africa. Can't believe it. I was in shul this morning, and the Rav, Rabbi Raf, I think that's his name. He said one line to me, and I went back to my seat, and it hit me afterwards. Like, he said, do you understand that you have Talmidim in South Africa? Do you understand what Siyata D'Shmai that is? And I said, you're right, it's tremendous Siyata D'Shmai. And then I went back to my seat and I was like, wow, I'm in Eretz Yisrael, I'm in Ramat Bet Shemesh, and I have to tell you, I said this over in Shalosh, but I have to tell you, my entire life, wherever I've been, there's always this line that people say, Kalta Litvak, Kalta Litvak. And people have lines like this. They say, they say about the Galiciane, they're like this, and the Hasidim are like that. And you come here to South Africa, where 95% of the people are Litvaks. I feel at home over here. And the Varmkeit, Halavai, all Yidden should be so varm. People, the hugs that I got, the kisses, the people went out of their way. People walked 15 minutes this way and setting up the house that way. You don't understand the achnasa sarchem, the feeling. I've never had such a feeling in my life in any place I've ever been. So all these rumors are put to rest. There's no such thing as a Kalta Litvak. We're the varmste Yidden in the world. Now, if we want Mashiach to come, we have to stop with this labeling people. You guys are like this, you guys are like that. Everybody has milas and everybody has chesroinus, but the chesroinus of the Litvaks are not that they kalt. Forget about it. It's stam. It's a bad rumor that I have no idea where it came from. So I want to say Yishkoyach, I want to say Yishkoyach to Reb Moshe Mofson and his family and his father I met. And there's another thing I was thinking about. Why was Rabbi Mofson so matzliach with Kiruv here? The changed South Africa. Everybody knows about the tremendous movement of Kiruv. And I was thinking on Shabbos that perhaps this is probably the only place in the world where you go into an Orthodox shul and there's unaffiliated Jews, many unaffiliated Jews. They show up with their cars on Shabbos and they sit down next to the religious and the fruma people, and everybody's makabel them, b'sever ponim yafais, and everybody feels part of it. And maybe that's why they're so matzliach, because the Friday Yid feels that he's betzim part of it. And I heard people, you tell a Friday guy here, you say, you're a Friday guy. No, I'm Orthodox. I'm an Orthodox Reform Yid. What are you talking about? I'm Orthodox. So that achdus and that varmkeit that people have here made a tremendous hashpah on the whole sviva and everything they do. And Baruch Hashem, I'm here. I see my good old friend Mendy Auerbach and his brother, who are the sons of Rabbi Auerbach. I spoke a lot about Mendy in the Tavar Magal. Here he is. Yishkoyach for coming. No, because he makes me feel comfortable. He sits 2 chairs over. For 4 years, he's been there. I got to tell you, one of the varmste Yidden I know, and there's no such thing as luck. Everything's Ashgacha Pratis. I looked it up now. 2 minutes ago, I showed it to Mendy. August 17th, 2019, which means 3 years ago to the day, but not yesterday and not tomorrow, to the day. Look it up. It was a Shabbos a week after Tisha B'Av. That's how I know. I was in a hotel in Cape Town, and the Yid comes over to me, Shalom Aleichem, hey, my name is Leon Welcher, Shalom Aleichem. And it was exactly 3 years ago. So today is 3 years of a chazaka, of being tremendous Yedidim. And he says, what do you do? I said, I used to do real estate, but now I'm trying to give shiurim. I have something called the 8-minute daf. I told him what it is, synopsis of the daf in 8 minutes. And he said, I want to make an app for you. I do apps. I did one for Rav Asher Weiss, and I want to do one for you. Subsider. I said, okay, yeah, sure. A lot of people said. And then I saw him, Motzei Shabbos, at a restaurant, and he says, listen, I want to introduce you to Rav Asher Weiss. So I go to Rav Asher Weiss, and I start schmoozing with him. I say, I got to show you this. And I open up my video, because the Olam told me Rav Asher loves animals, he loves safari. So I said, look at this. I was just the other day in this place where you could touch the lions. I sat on the lion, I gave an 8-minute daf. He looks at Leon and he says, this guy's a meshugana. So Leon comes to me afterwards. He says, listen, I know the Rav said you're meshugana, but the Rambam says that all good things are done by meshugayim. So it's a good thing you're meshugana. And so he didn't take, even though he's a big chassid of Rav Asher, he took it with a grain of salt, Baruch Hashem. He liked the fact that I was a meshugana, and he went with it. And like a month later, he delivered an app. And since then, we use that app. We might have to upgrade it because, it's getting a shtickle outdated. But he said, Oimer va'oisa. He came, he said he'll do. And tonight, the Melava Malka here is sponsored by the Welchers. By the way, you don't understand. His daughter, she thought that maybe my wife is going to walk. She walked 20 minutes this way, 20 minutes that way. The amount of chesed and varmkeit, my kids who are very picky about the people they like, they said, the Welchers, they've never seen something like that. Such unbelievable, nice people. So it should be a zchus for the neshama, Leon's shver. So tonight's shir is sponsored by the Welchers and Greenfield family for the shloishim of W. Welcher Greenfield, late father, Shlomo ben David. The neshama should have an aliyah, and I'm sure he's smiling down from Shemayim, seeing all the chesed that his enik lachdu and his mishpacha does, his wife, the unbelievable stuff. So yishkoich for having me. I think that's enough. Usually I read emails. I have an email here that I just opened up tonight. It's by Yeshua. I get like 30, 40 emails a day, Baruch Hashem, and I read only the best, and some of them have pictures and videos. We're not going to do that tonight. But this one I thought was interesting, a little bit to do with tonight. It says Yeshua said a gaftor from something like that. Great Neck, I'll just spell his name. Sedaghatpour. You figure it out yourself. He's from Great Neck, New York. He says he's a businessman with only a few hours a day to learn. And traditionally, he spent his learning doing Iyon and Chazara. But he realized that he wants to finish Shas, so he decided to join our shir for Kesubos. He was scared it wouldn't be as gishmak, but to his pleasant surprise, the daf has taken over the second half of my morning seder, and I love it very much. Thank you for your time and teaching and clarifying the Gemara so clearly. I have a strong kesher with the Niggesburg community in Muncie. I'm Sephardi, don't ask. But it was brought to my attention that our good friend, the Rebbe's son, Reb Yidi Leibovitz, was an avid MDYer. MDY, if you don't know, is Merkez Daf Yomi. That's our chabur. It's called MDY. I would like to donate 57 Gemarot, Lili Nishmat, both my father, Aaron ben Avram, as well as Lili Nishmat. Our friend Yidi Leibovitz was our in-house graphic designer, and he was nifter at a very young age from COVID, at the age of 40-something. Suddenly, he was just nifter. Big tragedy for MDY. She's giving 57 Gemaras. We give out Gemaras. Anybody that wants to try this year, we give out a free Art Scroll Gemara. And tonight we have Art Scroll Gemaras here. Anybody who wants to try this year, try it 2-3 times. Don't try it if you don't want to get addicted to learning. If you want to get addicted to learning, try it because you will get addicted. And 57 Gemaras is a very nice donation. Please let me know where to make the check out to. I'm not sure what time difference in South Africa, but either Shabbat Shalom. Okay, Yishkoyach. And then there's one more from Elazar Rosenthal, because I was in Medikwe, and I set my camera up. There was a pool, there was the water hole, and the animals were coming all day long. Elephants and zebras and this, and sometimes they had lions there. I wasn't zayich the lions. They said the lions come when people go on the game drive. So I set my camera up. It's going to be interesting for the people to see the animals go by. 3 days in a row, 45 minutes straight, not a single animal came by. As soon as I turned the camera off, I'm not kidding, 20 elephants came by. And people in New York, they've never seen this stuff. I thought it would be interesting. In middle shir, 20 elephants, nothing. So the guy writes here, the Gemara tells us about people learning so intense that the fire appeared above, and whenever they learn, fiery angel is created. Maybe in the zchus of giving shit to thousands, you have angels there scaring the animals away. The opposite. I don't know what this guy's talking about. The zchus of all those people should have been lions attacking zebras. Nothing. Who knows? The occasional animal we don't see, fine. This is from Elazar Rosenthal. He has another pshat. Anyway, let's get into the Gemara real quickly. Daf Lamed Ches. If you haven't done the daf, you're not into Kesubos. I'm telling you, Kesubos is such a geschmack and masechta. Every day, it's thing after thing here. Fine. We're holding Daf Lamed Ches Amud Aleph. All the way on the top. Like 4 lines down. Omalei Rava. So just a small review. The Gemara brought down different psukim. We're talking about the concept of kamlei b'derabrinei. If a person, let's say, kills somebody, and while he kills somebody, he rips their shirt, or somebody does an avera where he's chayev misa, can we also make him pay a knas, a fine? Could a person get the death penalty and pay money at the same time? So the concept is kamlei b'derabrinei. He only gets one out of the 2, and we give him the stronger one. The Gemara brings different psukim that seem to say the same idea. So yesterday we had, the Gemara says, well, one of the psukim comes to teach us that if somebody kills somebody else, on the way up, he's potter. So just show you the pasuk. Maybe I can find it here. There, usually we're in the base bedroom and we have TV screens and we have a guy setting up the lighting and the cameras. And there's a whole situation. Over here, we're on the road. So it says in the pasuk, so vayapel is a lotion of falling down. It's a downward motion. That's when you're chayiv to go in gullus. But if it's an upward motion, you don't go to gullus. The Gemara says we don't even know how to do tshuva on something like that. You don't go to gullus. You don't go to Ir Miklat, which, by the way, was in today's parsha. Ir Miklat. Many, did I forget somebody? I forget to thank the Olam. Who did I forget? Oh! I forgot. It's a good thing I stopped. I have to stop and say, you're not going to believe this. This is probably the first time ever that a Rebbe and a Rav flew in to see the Shir live. So I want to say Yishkoach to Rabbi Eli and Hillel, Reb Hillel and his son Eli, Bernstein, who flew in from Cape Town on a Rebbe salary to see the Shir live. I was supposed to be in Cape Town. Here they are. You know what? Come over here. Get over here, both of you. I don't know if you'll fit in the camera. Yishkoach so much. Thank you so much for coming. Come here. Eli, dip down here. Both of you. Say hello to the camera. These two flew in from Cape Town. How far is it? 2.5 hour flight?
2 hour flight, yeah.
2 hour flight. They flew in. The wife, how do you say wife? The wife, she booked the tickets without telling them a surprise. Unbelievable. Yishkoach. Thank you. Unbelievable. All right. Put the pressure on. So, says the Gemara, Amalei Rava, I don't need a pasuk to tell me this. I can learn this from somewhere else. And we had this Gemara, if you're familiar, we learned this already. So here's the pasuk. And if you look here, I don't know if you can see, in red, in the same pasuk we have, if you strike an animal, you must pay. It's a very interesting hekesh. Hekesh is when you have 2 words in the same pasuk, 2 concepts in the same pasuk, you can learn one from the other. And then it says, "Umake adam, you must." If you kill a person, you die. So Bechizkiah says something very interesting. Just like the first part of the pasuk says, you pay no matter what. In all situations, if you kill your friend's animal, it doesn't matter if you were sleeping, if you had intent, you didn't have intent, if you're upwards, downwards, shaking, maze, it doesn't matter. You pay. So too, the reverse is true. When you kill somebody, you never pay, no matter what. They're going to kill you. You might be chayiv misa, or you might not be chayiv misa, but you never pay. Just like you always pay by an animal, you never pay by a human being. Behema adam. Okay. There's no difference whether he had intent or not. What's Beimis Kavan? We just said, by the way, just so you chap. We just said shoygig and mezid. So what's miskaven and name miskaven? Mendi, what's pshat? Miskaven over here means that he had intent to kill another animal. He was on a game drive in the safari. He took out his gun and he was trying to shoot the lion, and by mistake he shot a zebra. They're both owned by Medikwe. It's a whole family mishpach over there. So he's chayiv. Bein derech yirida derech aliyah, doesn't matter if he was with the sword going downwards, upwards. That I showed you the pasuk already. Vayapel lepatre mamayin el chayve mamayin. No matter what, he's chayiv. Av magay adam leitachlik boy ben shoyglim mezid ben miskaven shem miskaven. So too, when you kill a human being, it doesn't matter whether it's shoyglim mezid, whether you had intent to kill this man, he killed that woman. Bein derech yirida derech aliyah lechayve mamayin el lepatre mamayin. You're always potter from pain. What happens to you is a different story. They might kill you. You never pay money for death. So why do I need a special pasuk? Don't tell me that the pasuk that was extra that we had on Friday comes to teach you this idea of there's no difference in upwards, downwards. Here it says mefurish. This pasuk, this hekesh, Adam, behema, that teaches us the idea of there's no difference between upwards and downwards. Why do I need the pasuk? If you blind your friend and you killed him through blinding him, what if he blinded his friend and at the same moment with another object he killed him? You see, his mamish, he's trying to be mekayim this pasuk somehow. He pokes him in the eye and cuts his neck. All at the same time. But it was at the same moment, two actions. One was to the eye, one was to the neck. Perhaps he'll take, maybe, okay, so now he's dead, he killed a guy. So what happens when you kill somebody? You chayiv misa. So I think he also has to pay for the eye. Ayin tachas ayin, as we know, as we're going to see, means you have to pay. You don't, if you take somebody's eye out, the Torah says the eye for an eye. Well, we know that it's not an eye for an eye. You pay for it. But at the same time, you also killed him. So he's chayiv misa. He had a shrug, the whole thing. Chayiv misa. So maybe you should also pay for the eye and also kill him. That's why we need the pasuk to say that in such a case, not stama. I don't have that many jokes from South Africa. There was a schnar guy who was collecting money. He says he's blind. Goes around the whole time with a stick, blind. So a guy caught him reading the newspaper. He says, Ganav, you're not blind, you're reading the newspaper. He said, I'm not reading the newspaper, I'm just looking at the pictures. Okay, fine. Zog the Gemara. These are the jokes Mendy doesn't like. He says, right, Mendy? It's a serious guy from South Africa. I told you, it's a different breed over here. Zog the Gemara. Amalei Rava, so Rava says, forget it. His whole question was from Beichizkiah. Interesting. I have another Beichizkiah that teaches me the same idea. The Torah Beichizkiah, ayin tachas ayin, v'loi ayin v'nefesh tachas ayin. So it's very interesting. First, we have to understand pshat. How do we know this idea that it says mefurish in the Torah, an eye for an eye? Ayin tachas ayin. How do I know it's not an eye for an eye? Who said? Maybe it is an eye. Maybe you poke somebody's eye out, they take it to Bezdin, and they take a spoon and take your eye out. It says in the Torah. So the Gemara darshans, it can't be. Why? Because by taking by taking an eye out, you might kill him. He's not chayiv misa. He only took somebody's eye out. We can't put a person in a situation where he might die. Okay, so that's what Beichizkiah says. Ayin tachas ayin v'loi ayin v'nefesh tachas ayin. But at the same time, we see this idea that we don't take a life and money from the one person. You can't take both. One halacha we learn from here that it's an eye for an eye, but another halacha we can learn from here that it's not both. You never punish him. No, so let's say he dies. No, you don't punish him. Okay, the Rishonim discuss not 100% the same. Great. Just as a side thing, a lot of times I like to bring this up. I'm not 100% familiar with this, and I didn't look it up on Google and everything you guys could do. If there's any doctors in the house that could correct me. But the Vilna Gaon said, and he lived, and we're talking about Litvaks, So the Vilna Gaon is like the ultimate Litvak. He lived in Lita, and the Vilna Gaon said that the word ayin, the I, is the letter ayin, which is 70. And he says that the eye has 70 muscles in it. He said that only recently did they discover that there's really 70 muscles in the eye. That's what they say. Okay. Zog the Gemara. So what do I need the pasuk? Knas, when you give a guy a fine, it's not logic. Logic dictates that if I destroy somebody's property that's worth $100, you pay $100. That you violate a woman and you have to pay 50 shekel, Mechta is 50 shekel, maybe it's 52 shekel, maybe it's 39. So anytime there's a fine, it's a chiddush. It's not based on logic. Oh, so if it's not based on logic, it's a chiddush. So anything that's a chiddush in the Torah, I would think, no. Not only do we take his life for killing somebody, but he also has to pay. Fine. Okay. But according to Rabbah, this is not true. Because it's a chiddush, the opposite. He holds the opposite. He holds you do pay a fine. So why did I need the pasuk? Says the Gemara, so the Rabbi Chananya ben Akavio. Oh, so the pasuk Kocherim is going to say this. Over here you have a chart that tells you the idea of erichin. The idea of erichin is if a person says, here we have a child and we have an adult. We have all sorts of ages. Person says, Erkoi alai, he points to that kid, he has to pay a certain amount. How much? You go to the chart. If he's a male, zachar, he's more than 5 years old, from 5 to 20, you pay 20 shekel. If he's 20 to 60, like this gentleman over here, in his 40s, he pays 50 shekel. What if a guy is about to be killed? They're taking him out. He's in the handcuffs and everything, taking him out to be cycle him. And a guy looks at him and says, Erko Elai. So that we had a machlokes, and that's what we learned from the pasuk. That he's not, at the end of the day, on one Tana says he has erchin on him. He's still a zachar, he's still 25 years old. On the other hand, no, he's worthless because he's about to die. That's what we learned from Kol Cheir. Says the official Mishnah, let me find it. The official Mishnah is sponsored by Moshe Cohen for hatzlacha with Limud Torah and Parnosa. Nairish and Isarish, so that's the beauty of Daf Yomi, Rabbi Yisai. We're always starting new Mishnayos, new Sugyas in the Mishnah. There's no need to wait to the beginning of a Perek or a Masechta. We can start right here, right now. And Be'ezer Hashem, in 7.5 years from now, when you get to Kesubos Daf Lamed Ches, at the Mishnah, that's when you finish Shas. You don't have to start Shas at Brochus or Shabbat. Shas is just, this is a big circle, so it doesn't matter when you start. Start today. Nairish and Isarsov and Isgarsha. So it says like this in the pasuk. Sorry. If a person violates, and the pasuk says there's 3 conditions. First of all, she's a naira. Discuss in a second. Second of all, she's a psula. She's still a psula. She's a virgin. Asher lo yerasa. She wasn't engaged. 3 conditions. That's when a man that violates her pays 50 shekel to the father. So again, we have the 3 conditions. Naira, psula, lo yerasa. What's a naira? So from 0 to 12 years old is a katana. Naira is from 12 to 12 and a half, provided that she has simanim. And from 12 and a half on, she becomes a begaris. She must be, in order to be liable to this fine of being ma'anas, a woman, she has to be in this narrow window of 6 months of nairus. But she also has to be a psula, In other words, if she's a giyores or shifcha or somebody had relations with somebody else beforehand, nothing. And also not engaged. Says the Mishnah, Naira shenisarsav in his garsha. What if she was engaged? She wasn't. Now she's not engaged. Why? Because she got engaged and she got divorced. In those days, it wasn't just an engagement like we have today. In those days, they did erusin was kiddushin. It was he gave a ring and she became a Eishes Ish. A year later, they would do chuppah and they would have nisuin. But the first step of erusin is a very strong step. So she got divorced from that. So what's her status now? She's a psula, she's a nara, and she has a broken engagement. What is she? Does she fit into the third category of loy oirasa? So we have a machlokes. Rabbi Yosef ain't loknas. No, she's not. It doesn't matter. Today you're right. She's divorced, but since she was engaged for 1 minute, that's it. She's not in that category. Rabbi Kiva Omer yesh loknas uknos ala'atzmo. Says Rabbi Kiva, she does have a knas, but something changes. What changes? Until now, her father got the knas. Why does he get the knas? We don't understand why. The Torah says so. It's a chiddush. Father gets a knas. Since she got engaged, that's it. She gets a knas. She's in that pasuk, but she gets the knas. So we have to remember this for a few minutes from now. We're going to see Rabbi Kiva says the opposite. Over here in the Mishnah, he says, Rabbi Kiva Omer, yesh lo knas. She has a knas, uknas alatzmo, and she gets it. Ask the Gemara, my time to Rabbi Saglili, what's the reasoning? Why shouldn't she get a knas? She's not engaged now. Omar Krash Eloirasa. She's not engaged. Hoirasa ein lo knas. If she was engaged at one point, she loses her knas. Says Rabbi Yossi Aglili, you don't have these three things. You have Nairi Apsul, but you don't have a lawyer Rasa. She was engaged at one point. That's it. She lost it. Rabbi Kiva Eimer, Rabbi Kiva Ashaloi Rasa, Lavia. So Rabbi Kiva, no, you're right. It does say in the pasuk lawyer Rasa, but it doesn't mean she doesn't get a knas at all. It means that the father doesn't get it. Instead of the father, she gets it. Ashaloi Rasa, Lavia. Rasa, but if she was once engaged, Latzmo, she gets it. Ask the Gemara, wait a minute. How does it make any sense? If what you're saying is true, Rebbe Kiva, so say the same exact logic to the other two things, to Naira and Psula. She has to be a Naira. But if she's not a Naira, she's a Boigera, she's already 15 years old, she gets a Knas, but she gets to keep it. You don't say that. She's a Boigera, there's no Knas at all. Say the same thing for Psula. If she's a Psula, then the father gets a Knas. If she's not a psula, she gets to keep it. No, we don't say that. The only time Rebbe Kiva says it on the third thing, if she was engaged at one point, the only thing that changes, the father doesn't get it and she gets it. That's not fair. Let's be consistent throughout the whole pasuk on Naira and Psula as well. So the Gemara. Now people are going to tell me, and after this is the first time I'm doing this with the computer showing, they say, we like the days they used to hold a piece of paper and show. We don't like the big screens anymore in MDY. No, too bad. Don't even bother sending me the email. I don't care. We're going back to the screens. Say there. Okay. Fine. Right? And Leon Welcher used to send me paper from South Africa, fragrance, because I only use the big giant one. So cases, I have a lot of cases now of paper. Whoever needs A3 paper, and just show, come schmooze with me. I got whatever. All right, Zog the Gemara. Here's the question. The Torah tells us that the only one that gets a knas is a naira, and you understand from the pasuk that once she's older, she's a bigger, she doesn't get knas. Maybe the Torah means to say, not that there's no knas, but that the father doesn't get it and she should get it, the same way you learned the word leirasa. The same thing is psula. We understand that if she's not a psula, the father doesn't get a knas. Maybe it means that the guy still has to pay the 50, but she gets it. You're saying that no, she doesn't get anything at all. So also when she gets engaged, there shouldn't be anything at all, not even to herself. Okay. The word loiraso, we have a different limud. Asher loiraso prat lenarish and his arsav and his garsho shein lo knas. Rabbi Kiva Omer, yeah. So that's what we said until now. The Rabbi Yosef says that if she was engaged, there's no knas at all. Rabbi Kiva Omer yesh lo knas, and check this out. Look what Rabbi Kiva says here. Remember the Mishnah? The Mishnah says. Rabbi Kiva says, Yesh lo knas, uknas la'atzma, and she gets it. Over here, all of a sudden, Rabbi Kiva Omer, Yesh lo knas, uknasa le'aviyah. Unbelievable. Why would he say such a thing? It's different than what the Mishnah says. The father gets a knas. And he even goes on to explain, the Bryce explains, it makes a lot of sense. Since the father, if he marries off his young daughter, he takes any money that the husband gives her, he takes for himself. And the father also gets the 50. What if this girl, she got engaged, broke the engagement, got engaged again? The father keeps on collecting the kedusha money, even the second time. So too the father should receive the money of a knas, no matter how many times she got engaged and got divorced from the engagement, he should continue getting it. So says Rabbi Kiva in the Brisa. In the Mishnah, he said different. So then why, if there's no difference, according to Rabbi Kiva, does it make a difference if this girl got engaged? No. Even if she got engaged and broke the engagement, nothing changes. Before the father got the knas, and after engagement, he continues to get the knas. So then why in the world does the Torah say she's not engaged? Who cares? It doesn't even make a difference. You're right. It's not there to teach us anything, but to make a gzera shava. To make a hekesh, to make a gzera shava. It says these words lo yirasa. That's what we call, Rashi explains, this is gzera shava mufna. Mufna means, anytime you have gzera shava, you have a word here and a word somewhere else in the Torah, and they're the same exact word. We had the other day, they mean the same thing. We have the shava karin and bakran, but we have it even better than that. It means the same idea of hakah. Fine. But if you have the same word in two different places, and one of them is completely extra, we don't need it at all, that's a very strong gzera shava, you can't break it. Ma chamishim so we have the two, everybody knows, oines mefata, a woman who's violated and a woman who was seduced. Both of them get a knas of 50, but how do we know? So he's learning from gzera shava, from the extra word leirasa. What? Maybe it would be 50 prutas, 50 cents? Well, what do we have here? 50 rand? How do you know it's kesef shkalim, serious amount of money? From this gzera shava. Afkan shkal. Rabbi Kiva, my chazis dasha leirasa gzera shava. Ask the Gemara. You can learn gzera shava from any one of the three words. Why did he pick leirasa word? Upsula, limutebula, and what do we learn from the word psula? To say literally, she has to be a psula and not a beula. Turning to Daf Yomi Chesam Beis, sponsored by Moshe Horn in honor of Zach the Rock. You know what I forgot to do? All the sponsorships. When the shir is over, I'll do it, and then maybe I'll put it in the beginning. Lenny Lura CPA and Yankel Cohen, the official MDY MSP, and Hudi Newman in honor of Eli. That's me. Whoever didn't hear the shir, you'll fall for this. The real greatest Jewish basketball player who ever lived. That's not me. I mean, he thought it, whatever. He's joking around. The guy spent $1,600 to make fun of me. It's fine. Why are you taking the word psula and being literal about it and saying she has to be a psula? And if she's a bula, there's no knas. Use the word psula for the gzera shava. And say that the word asher lo yarasa, she wasn't engaged. That's literal. Who told Rabbi Kiva what to be literal with? We have three words. Naira, Psula, Lo Yerasa. He decided, Rebbe Kiva, that Lo Yerasa, the Torah is not serious about it. She could be engaged, not engaged, and we need it for something else, for Gzeir Shava. Maybe the Torah wasn't serious about the word Psula. Or maybe the Torah wasn't serious about the word Naira. Maybe she could be 15 years old, 35 years old, and she'd still get a knas. Why those two words are you serious about and not Lo Yerasa? Be literal. Lasher tells me that she can't be engaged, and if she was engaged and she got divorced, there's no knas at all. Says the Gemara, no. Leiros is better to say this about Gzeir Shava. Shareni Koirba Naira Psula. Because, look, at the end of the day, we have two things going for her. She's a Naira and she's a Psula. So who cares if she was engaged or not? Says the Gemara, Adarabba. Psula Gzeir Shava. No. Who told you that makes sense? Maybe Psula is extra and we're going to use that for Gzeir Shava. It's more important that she should be not engaged and she should be a naira, rather than should be a psula and a naira. Now, if I were to ask you, you were giving out fines, what makes more sense to you logically? Which woman deserves a fine, so to speak, more than the other? A woman who is a psula, or a woman who was never engaged? Who would you give a fine to? Think about it. So we learned, and it sounds absurd, especially here in South Africa. I got to be careful what I'm saying exactly. I don't know who's listening. But there is a slave market. And sometimes the Gemara tells us that, we won't call them slaves, avadim, okay? Just in case, oivei. No, it's joke. She was joking. Fine. Sometimes an eved is a good eved, and the master wants to give him a shivcha. So he goes to look for a shivcha. What is he going to give him? He's going to give him a psula. That has more value, the Gemara tells us, than a non-psula. It's like that. So a woman that was engaged, sometimes, there's a little bit of a chsar. She broke an engagement, but not so much maybe for an eved. He doesn't care so much. Broken engagement, not broken engagement. But a psula, he's very makbid. So in Mela, it makes a little bit more sense logically that if the Torah says that one of the two gets a knas, I would say it means that she's a psula rather than she was never engaged. Shareni koirba shaliros, says the Gemara, mistabra ha ishtani gufa v'ha lo ishtani gufa. So the Gemara says it's better than me. The Gemara says, what's the difference between a psula and a psula? Something changed in her body. There's a physical change. You can see it. Psulim and not psulim. So in Mela, if she doesn't have psulim, she loses the knas. Such a woman doesn't get knas. But a woman who's engaged, there's nothing physical. If somebody didn't tell you, you would never know. So Mela, that woman doesn't get a knas. It does get a knas. Says the Gemara, how does Rabbi Estie Aglili know this idea of 50 kesef? We just said we're learning Gzeir Shava. The Kiva uses a lawyer also. He says it's completely extra. Right? According to Rabbi Kiva, it doesn't matter if she was engaged, not engaged. She was engaged 25 times, broke all her engagements, and somebody's ma'anis her, she gets a full knas. So then why does the Torah say lawyer also? She wasn't engaged? The Torah just uses those words for Gzeir Shava to say that she gets 50 kesef. But how does Rabbi Estie Aglili know that? We had it a number of times in this Masechta. I will show you this chart. Maybe it'll refresh your memory. I don't know if you can see, Rabbi Estie. I'm sorry. If you don't see, you can see. There's two psukim. Top one is by Mafata, by somebody that seduces a woman. Bottom one is by the Oynas, the Ma'anas. He violates her without permission. In the top pasuk, it says in red, Kesef Yishkoil. Yishkoil is a lashon of shekel. So we know shekel. And it says, Kemoyer Habsulos. By the Oynes, it says, Chamishim Kesef. 50. Now we don't know 50 what? It could be 50 pruta, it could be 50 shekel, it could be 50 anything. So the Gemara says, we learn one from the other. Oynes and Mefata have something in common, and therefore we learn one from the other. We also don't know how much shekel the mefata gives. There's no number. It says it has to be shekel. It could be 10, 20, 30. But that it says by yonis. So we learn one from the other and the other from the one. In other words, we learn 50 from yonis and we learn shekel from mefata. And we use both pieces of information for both. There's a lot of similarities between the yonis and mefata. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi doesn't need Rabbi Akiva's Shava of Loyarasa, Loyarasa. He says he learns it from yonis and mefata. It's 50. End the story. And we had a number of times in the Sechta. Yonis should be like a mefata should be like a yonis. Fine. But the bottom line is, Kasha the Rebbe Kiva. How in the world do we reconcile this brisa? The Mishnah says mefurish, who gets the knas of a woman who's engaged, according to Rebbe Kiva? She herself gets it. That's what changes. The father no longer gets it, she herself gets it. And then we learn in the brisa, it's not true, Rebbe Kiva says, and he also goes on to explain why it makes sense logically that the father remains and he gets it all the time. The woman never gets the knas. So what do we do with this? It's a big contradiction. So the Gemara, we have nothing to do. It's a contradiction like that, we're stuck. Trey Tanoi Valiva de Rebbe Kiva. You're right. It's two Talmidim. One heard this way, the other heard that way. They're both going in Rebbe Kiva. That's the best we could do. We don't have a good pshat, a good way to work out of this contradiction. It has to be two Talmidim. Says the Gemara, okay, I'll roll with that for now. But Bishlam Rebbe Kiva the Masnisin, I understand very well the Mishnah. That what? That the father does not get the knas if she gets engaged. Something changes. If a woman gets engaged, something changes. What changes? Not that she doesn't get a knas at all. There is a knas. Rabbi Yosef says there's no knas at all. That's what changes. That's a major change. But according to Rabbi Kiva in the Mishnah, what changes? That the father doesn't get it, now the woman gets it. That makes a lot of sense, as the Gemara. Very good. There's a Geshava Layarasa, and we learn from there that it's 50 shekel. But the way you're learning it in the Brisa, the simple words of the pasuk don't make any sense. It says that the woman has to be a naira, she has to be a psula, and she was never engaged. The Brisa completely ignores the words Layarasa. For the same price, the pasuk could have said a donkey. I don't know what. It's not a random word. It says in the pasuk that she's not engaged. You have to relate. It has to mean something. It has to mean something to us. According to the Mishnah, it means a lot. If she was engaged, something changes. The father doesn't get it. The woman gets it. So that's why the Torah says, Lo Yerasa. Plus there's Gzeir Shava. And it's mufna. Rashi keeps on saying it's mufna. Even though we learned something from it. But according to Rebbe Kiva the Brisa, nothing changes. Before she was engaged, the father gets the knas. After she was engaged and she broke the engagement, the father gets the knas. So then why in the world does the Torah say, Lo Yerasa? The simple meaning of the pasuk is completely lost according to the Brisa. Says Gemara, it's not lost. It says with a samach, with a sin, you say with a samach, that what? It means that she's not engaged today. It's very important that she's not engaged today. If somebody violated her while she's engaged, there's no knas. Now, as I explained before, if she's engaged, it's not a joke. It's not like today, engaged. Over there, she becomes a Eishes Ish. If she's Mizana, Chayv Misa. She's literally married in a way. It's a half marriage. So what happens if a guy violates a woman who's engaged in the time of the Gemara? Does he pay a knas or not? No. Why? Come lay, but we have to kill him. We have to put him to death for violating a married woman. So there's no knas in that case. So how can you tell me that the word Asher Lo Yerasa is coming to exclude a woman who's engaged? Of course he doesn't pay knas. Says Gemara, Rusa Baskili, he deserves death. Sakidat Chamina, Hoyel. I don't know if it's possible that they lower it down over there because I don't have a good recording. Shkoyach. Says the Gemara. No, that's why I had this mic, but it's not working and whatever. Okay. Ashela Erosa, Arusa Vaskili, 2 more minutes, we're done. Don't worry about it. Once again, the whole idea of a knas is a chidush. It's not logic. It's a special concept. I've got the miktam mishala. So I think, yes, you're right. This guy, he violated a married woman, and Arusa not married, but she's an engaged woman. He's chayiv misa. Nevertheless, I still think that he has to pay knas. Why? He has to pay a fine because the whole idea of fine is a chidush. And when it comes to chidushim, there's no common with the rabbi with a chidush. Well, the rabbi Omar, same thing we had earlier. It's chazar now. According to Rabbi, you're right. It's a chiddush and he does pay. So then why does the Torah say lo yerosam? You're right. Rabbi must agree to the better pshat that we thought, the pshat that made more sense to us. That what? That the pasuk is not completely out there. Asher lo yerosam means something to us. That what? That if she was engaged, something changes. That what? The father no longer is entitled to the knas. Now the knas goes directly to the girl. Torah Rabbana. Knas alemi. Who gets the knas? Lo avia. V'yashoymrim la'atzma. What is going on here? Look at this. It says in the pasuk, this violator guy, he has to give lahavia naira. It's in red. It's mefurish in the pasuk. Who gets the knas? There's no gzer shavas or nothing. It's simple words. The father gets the knas. End the story. Chamishim kosev v'loisi elisha. He has to marry her. If she wants to marry this violator guy, he has to marry her. He can never let her go. Says the Gemara, v'yeshoymrim la'atzma. She gets the knas. La'atzma amai. It's a mefurish pasuk that the father gets it. How in the world could you say it goes to her? No, we're talking about our case that we discussed until now. She received a ring from somebody. She was arusa. Then she broke that engagement. You can't just break an engagement. You have to give a get. Right? It's serious engagement. So, that's exactly our sugya. According to Rebbe Kiva in our Mishnah, she is entitled to the knas. That's exactly what we're saying. She gets the knas when? If she was engaged before and she broke the engagement. Listen to this. A guy violates a woman. He's chayiv 50 shekel. Before he has a chance to give her the 50 shekel, he sends a hitman. They kill her. Oh, so now he gained something. What? He doesn't have to pay the 50 shekel anymore. Why? Because she's dead. How do we know this? You don't pay to somebody that's dead. Says the Gemara, this idea, if she dies, does the violator still have to pay the father? It was not so simple to Rava. Abai just says it as if it's a pashut thing. Rava had a big question. The boy Rava, and we might repeat this tomorrow, but we'll just read it until we get to the bottom. The boy Rava, yesh beggar bekever, or ain beggar bekever. Gishmak. Could a person mature in their grave? In other words, this girl, she's violated when she's 12 years old, and now she's entitled to knas. Then she dies, and until they bring the violator to Bezdin and they mechayev him for everything he did, she dies. Does she mature and become a begeres in the grave? We'll say, okay, now she's not 12 years old anymore. Now she's 13. It took a whole year, and you know how the court systems go until you go. Now he doesn't have to pay her anymore, maybe. But maybe he still has to pay to the Yerush, to the son. And the Gemara is going to ask, how in the world does she have a kid? She's only 12 years old, 12 and a half years old. How does she have a kid? And that's tomorrow's sugya. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful evening. Yishkoyach for having me. A good Voch. Thank you very much. Thanks to the host. Thanks to Leon and everybody else. Thanks to, of course, Mendy, the Tover Mago man. Shkoyach.